First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not wanting to spend a lot of money in my sister's second wedding? Before I begin, it's not that I'm not excited. I am. I'm more frustrated at the fact that she doesn't seem to understand that this isn't the first go-round. My 32 female, middle sister 32 female, was married at 25 and divorced 3 years later. We had a large, 150-person wedding. My family spent a lot of money hosting the wedding, and I personally spent a lot of money hosting various wedding events, bridal shower, bachelorette. When the first marriage was ending, I was there for my sister every step of the way. Went to meet with lawyers with her, was constantly on the phone offering a shoulder to cry on, and have her come and stay with me for a weekend when she just needed to get away. When she began dating her current fiancé, we were thrilled that she had met him, as he is a wonderful person and brings out the best in my sister. We joked around about when he would propose, and were thrilled when he did. We are barely into the wedding planning process round 2, and she's already expecting this wedding to be bigger and better than the last. She sent a list of places she would like to go for her bachelorette party, along with a list of 15 people she wants to be invited. Never mind the fact that we are in the middle of a global pandemic, which will hopefully be much more under control by the time the wedding comes around. But I already spent close to $2,000 on her first bachelorette party. Don't me, she was the first of the friends group to get married. I was making good money and wanted her to have an amazing time. I have no problem doing something on a smaller scale. A day at a winery, which she loves, or a spa day followed by dinner. But I'm not going to put up a lot of money for this. She's already asked us when we are hosting a bridal shower, and has made small comments about gifts she's really looking forward to getting. I will get them something, but the gift I got for her first wedding was broken by her during a fight with her ex-husband. Waterford crystal champagne glasses. Our youngest sister, 30 female, is on the same page as me. She has 2 young kids and currently isn't working due to COVID, so they are relying on her husband's income. The bride knows I do very well for myself financially. It is always hinting that I should be sharing the wealth, especially around the holidays. She sends us dresses for the bridal party, and they are $250 before alterations. I told her that that seemed like a bit much for that, and she got mad and said it was her vision. I feel horrible for my parents, who have offered some financial assistance, but she wants more, and they have tried to explain that this is her second time and it should be smaller. She keeps saying her first wedding didn't count. I want to be a supportive older sister and help her out, but saying that her first wedding didn't count really upset me because my bank account would say otherwise. I have tried talking to her, but I am just a bitter older sister. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for not wanting to spend a lot of money on her second wedding? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. I mean, what? She's getting married, not you. Help her if you can. But if any of my siblings said share the wealth, they'd be getting a year's supply of horse manure delivered to their house. Not the a-hole. If she wants a big grand wedding, again, she can pay for it. Your family was generous enough to fork over thousands for her first wedding, and no one is under obligation to do so again, or God forbid a third time. With the state of the world, I'm sure people's finances are not the same, and there are more important things to worry about, like mortgages or feeding children, versus paying for your sister's second wedding. So tell her to take her entitlement and shove it if she argues. Not the a-hole. If she wants a big fancy wedding, she can pay for the big fancy wedding. Not the a-hole. Her decision to marry doesn't entitle her to everyone's money. It's not about money or a wedding. It's about the marriage itself. Your sister sounds exhausting. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for attending a wedding I'd been uninvited from? My brother, 28 male at the time, married Maggie, 29 female, in 2019 pre-COVID. Maggie is my 25 female at the time, ex-boyfriend's 25 male, sister. They met as a result of X and I being in a relationship. X and I dated for 3 years and broke up in 2018 after he cheated. He is engaged to the other woman currently. Obviously, I was hurt at first, but neither of us were happy and this was a chance to get out. I had no contact with X, never spoke to the other woman and minded my own business. I also didn't treat Maggie any differently because she's his sister. To me, she's just my brother's partner and I always acted like a friend to her. Maggie was definitely a bridezilla. After the engagement, she took control of wedding planning and made all of the decisions. The only thing my brother chose were the suits for himself and the groomsmen, although even then it had to be in a Maggie-approved style and color. Maggie sat me down one day and told me that she didn't want there to be any family drama on her wedding day. She'd spoken to X, and apparently he said he'd feel uncomfortable if he had to be around me at the wedding, especially as his fiancée would be there too. This surprised me because, like I said, I didn't talk to him and was genuinely over it. I reassured Maggie that she need not worry, and she said she'd made a tough decision to uninvite me, and she hoped I understood that it was her day and she just wanted it to be a happy one. Excuse me? It's my brother's day too, and I want to see him get married. I called my brother afterwards. He was aware of Maggie's choice and he wanted me to be there, but he didn't want to upset Maggie by saying no to her. I love him, but he has the backbone of a slug and rarely stands up for himself. My parents were furious at how unreasonable Maggie was being. Since they know full well I wouldn't have made a fuss about X. They talked to her, but she wouldn't budge. Not your wedding, not your choice. I ignored Maggie's request and turned up at the wedding with my parents anyway, and it was a lovely ceremony. There wasn't a wedding meal for me, but I nipped out to grab dinner from a cafe, before returning to the reception and having a great time, dancing with my brother, drinking and just enjoying myself. I didn't acknowledge X or his fiancée once. I didn't need to. I was there for my brother. He told me he was so happy I'd attended, and it wouldn't have been the same without his little sister. Maggie didn't kick off, but she gave me dirty looks the whole time, and I could see her whispering to people, who would then also give me dirty looks. After the day, she blew up at me for undermining her and ruining her wedding. Nothing happened. She just didn't enjoy it because she spent it feeling angry. I know, it's horrible to crash a wedding, but I feel like I had a right to be there as it was my brother's wedding too. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. He didn't want to upset Maggie by saying no to her. I love him, but he has the backbone of a slug and rarely stands up for himself. Not the a-hole, but I'm sorry to say your brother is. Having a slug's internal structure is an okay excuse for some transgressions. This is not one of them. Maggie is BA, beyond a-hole. She broke the scale here. I thought the same. Her brother should have put his foot down and stood up to his demanding wife. Not the a-hole, but beware. Maggie's going to ruin your family. Her disrespectful behavior goes way beyond being a bridezilla. That's controlling, selfish, and unreasonable. And your brother is clearly a jellyfish for letting her get away with it. Wait until they bring a child into this world. She'll use the kid as a pawn, just as she did this BS wedding invitation. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't concerned for my brother. Don't get me wrong. He seems happy, but you never know what goes on behind closed doors. So I hope she isn't being manipulative and controlling towards him on a daily basis. He's very shy and easy to walk all over, I guess. So I'm praying she doesn't take advantage of that. Everyone sucks here. Your ex for cheating and then asking his sister not to invite you when he was the one who had a problem and should have been uninvited. The sister for uninviting you. Your brother for not having his family's back. You for crashing the wedding. Haha, that's a fair judgment. We could all do with improving our communication skills. Lol. The next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for uninviting my sister to my wedding for what she told my fiancé? My male 27, fiancé female 25, has an obvious permanent burn scar from an accident that caused her mother, her only parent, to pass away from injury. My fiancé had a long recovery. It's been 7 years. The scar is on her collarbone. It goes down her chest but isn't showing, unless she's wearing scoop/square tops. She often wears hoodies/jackets to cover up. She puts this cream, I don't know what ladies call it, but it's supposed to tone skin color or something? I'm not sure, but my fiancé calls it foundation that is 1 degree brighter than her skin color. I absolutely adore her. She's pretty, smart, ambitious, and the list goes on. What happened was unfortunate, and I'm glad she's at peace with herself and more confident. My family love her. How can they not? She's a member of the family. My mom makes sure she takes part in every family function, and things like shopping and decorating other things. However, my sister made comments about my fiancé's scar several times. I've called her out on her behavior several times to get her to stop, because she was hurting me before my fiancé with her backhanded and insensitive comments. I told my fiancé she had every right to cut my sister out and not deal with her BS. But she has been forgiving and respectful of my entire family. Our wedding is in February. My fiancé went shopping for the wedding dress. This is where the issue started. My fiancé showed the wedding dress to my sister. I didn't see it, but I was told it was a spaghetti strap dress. My fiancé likes this stuff. Anyways, my sister saw it and went nuts. She started criticizing her choice and said that she should have gotten a high neck or a jewel wedding dress to cover up the scar. She argued with my fiancé about it. I went to my family's house and I confronted her. I yelled at her after she told me my fiancé needed to return the dress and get a proper one, so that guests won't focus on her burn scar and use it as a topic of conversation and gossip. I told her that she's not invited to our wedding. She isn't welcome to my wedding with this entitled attitude of hers, and her insensitivity and disrespect. We argued for half an hour, then I left. In exactly an hour, my mom and dad called and berated me, saying my sister was crying after I uninvited her, and that I had no right to uninvite her. She's my sister, and she was just trying to help out and give an advice and avoid any unnecessary drama at the wedding. My mom said my fiancé can keep the dress, but suggested to wear a bridal shawl as a neutral solution. I stopped responding to my mom's calls and texts after that. Family members were upset my sister was uninvited and wanted me to invite her again because this will make family look bad in front of outsiders and guests. Now for the top comments. Not day hall. Uninvite anyone who insults your fiancé in my opinion. I'm definitely standing my ground. This is mine and my fiancé's big day. Not day hall. Your mom is ridiculous to suggest your fiancé needs to compromise with anyone on her wedding dress. OP is not day hall. His sister and mother, now those two surely are. That rotten apple didn't fall from the tree. What a small person your sister is. Your fiancé's burn scar is a badge of courage. I work in surgery, and I've done many burn reconstructions. That is no easy road to go down, and your fiancé should be praised for going through all that and coming out the other side with her gracious nature intact. Your sister owes you and your fiancé a huge apology. Your mother can offer one as well. This ew factor is childish and reprehensible. Not day hall at all. She sounds jealous of the fiancé. OP, does your sister have a history of criticizing or being rude to your girlfriends? I know a few girls that seem to hate any girls their brothers brought home. And I was always put off by them because it seemed like they resent anyone that took attention away from them for even a split second. Now, for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not inviting my future sister-in-law's boyfriend to our wedding? I, 25 female, happily got engaged to my fiancé, 27 male, on Christmas after dating for 3 years. This wasn't much of a surprise. He and I had planned on getting engaged after I got my divorce. The only surprise was when and how it was going to happen. My first marriage was at 18 and only lasted 8 months before he left me in the hospital half dead. Yes, it was due to abuse. My fiancé and I announced our engagement immediately and we already have our date set. What can we say? We already have location, date, etc. picked out. We plan on January 2022. Hopefully, everything goes as planned with the pandemic. Of course, the first people we told was our families. This includes my in-laws, brother-in-law and his wife, my parents, my sister and her family, and my fiancé's half-sister, Meg. This is where our problem starts. Meg and my fiancé didn't know each other until they were adults, and they still aren't close. We found out a year and a half ago that Meg is dating my ex-husband. We have told her what happened with my ex with proof, but she thinks it's all a lie to make him look bad. Whatever, it's her choice. We'll leave the door open for support, but I do not interact with her. We told her she will be invited to our wedding, but under no circumstance is my ex to come. This didn't go over well. She complained that she had been with him for years, and her significant other will come to her brother's wedding. That I don't get a say, and I wasn't going to pick and choose who family is. This sparked a big fight that ended in me calling her a witch and telling her she could either come without him or not come at all. We are now getting hate from my fiancé's family, saying I'm in the wrong, that they would keep my ex away from me, and everyone else gets to bring their significant other. We have told them this isn't up for debate, that it's our wedding, so it's our choice. We already have people saying they will boycott our wedding. Am I the a-hole for this? I know my significant other would really like his sister to come, but I can't risk my ex being there. I'm starting to feel like the a-hole for causing drama because I probably wouldn't even notice him there. Now for the comments. Not the a-hole in any way, shape, or form. Do not allow anyone to bring your abuser to your wedding. Hire security if necessary. Anyone who would expect that this is not someone you want at your wedding. Congratulations. Hire security regardless. She sounds like she's the type to crash the wedding. Absolutely not the a-hole. And fiancé should handle his own family. If they boycott your wedding because your ex-attacker isn't allowed to come, that says something about what kind of relationship you should maintain with them. But if anyone tries to argue with you, I'd like you to remember that no is a complete sentence. Don't fall into the trap of trying to get them to agree with you. Just maintain your boundary and let them choose whether they want to come in with you or stay outside. The very next person to give you grief needs a history lesson, not the a-hole. No, the person who almost murdered me will not be at my wedding. Truthfully, I would get a permanent restraining order against him. Were criminal charges ever filed? Charges were filed, but he got away with assault. They tried to get him with attempted murder, but they couldn't prove that he had planned it or meant to end me. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe. Am I the a-hole for forbidding my sister to meet my child and telling my wife to butt out of the situation? So the judgment is pretty much exactly as the title suggests. I will provide context though. I, 28 male, have been married to my wife 4 years and we have a 2-year-old son together. My older sister Ariel has 2 kids with her husband. She is my only sibling, but we do not speak and haven't since my wedding 4 years ago. My wife knew I had no relationship with my sister or mother when we got together, but now it's causing an argument. We were a pretty typical family until my mom cheated my senior year of high school with a coworker. My dad moved out immediately and I moved with him. This caused a rift between me and my sister. My sister believed, since my mom was sorry and it was a one-time thing as she claimed, which I don't for a second believe, and was trying to reconcile through the church, that me and my dad's refusal to speak with her was somehow wrong. I was 18 and my sister was 20. Long story, but eventually my sister stopped speaking with my dad. I haven't seen my mom since 2016, and we have only spoken once since 2019 when she tried to invite herself to my wedding. She was not invited, but my sister was, out of courtesy. My sister didn't show up and we have not spoken since. My wife knew when she married me that my only family was my dad and my cousins. She said it was okay and she didn't care. So, a few months ago, my wife got a call from my sister's husband whom I've never met, and he said that he wanted to start mending the bridge and would like to have me come meet their kids. I said no. Well, then my sister started sending pictures of her kids to my wife and my wife sent pictures back. I told her multiple times I did not like this, and she told me she could send pictures to whoever she wants. I said that if she keeps testing my boundaries, she will be a single parent really soon, that she signed up for me as is. My wife is saying it's wrong to deprive my son of his family. I said I don't even have a relationship with my sister or brother-in-law, so why should my kid? That it doesn't make me feel comfortable at all, and I don't even know these people. Also, any picture she sends could easily be forwarded to my mom and she needed to think about that. She said she doesn't even understand why my mom can't meet her kid, and that comment alone angered me because I've explained my family drama for years, and it feels like she just ignored it. I said she really needs to think about who she wants to appease, because I'm not gonna stand for disrespect of my boundaries. My dad totally agrees with me, and is telling me I should start setting aside money now for an exit strategy because my wife's behavior is exactly how my mom used to act, and I should see the warning signs now. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Your dad cut off his own daughter and his own grandchildren because they didn't want to participate in the public shunning of his ex. I'm sorry, but your dad is an a-hole. No, my dad cut off his daughter after she wouldn't leave him the hell alone, blasted him to family friends for not taking my mom back, and tried to manipulate him by not speaking to him for months when he tried reaching out, and calling him a deadbeat even though she was 20 years old. Lol. Then she didn't show up for my wedding, and that was the final straw. Your mindset is man-hating and disgusting. Get some help. Not the a-hole. This was all clearly defined at the beginning of your relationship. Why does she even care? Follow your dad's advice. Pretty much what I said. Why do you care? Her parents are close by. She has multiple siblings. My dad is involved. It's not like the kid has nobody. The only concern if you were to break up over this is custody. On her time, she could very well take your child to meet your mother, and there is nothing you could do about it. Sounds like his wife is doing what she wants regardless. And if she decides to take the kid to see his auntie or grandmother, she will do without Opie's consent. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter it's okay to use her mother for money? So, I used to be married to Judy, 36 female, and we have a daughter Scarlett, 13 together. Fake names. Judy never wanted kids, but I did, and I assumed she did too. We had her and Judy completely changed. She wasn't caring towards Scarlett, they didn't bond, and she blamed Scarlett for us losing our independence. About a year after, we had a divorce and she gave me everything. It did hurt me that she didn't even want to see Scarlett once a year even. She moved to Seattle months after, started running a business, got really fit, and her cousin told me she even got laser surgery to remove her stretch marks. Since then, Judy has moved to LA and divides her time between there, London, Mumbai, and New York City. She has become a fairly famous influencer and socialite. I check her Instagram every now and then, and she's been at parties with celebrities all over the world and seems truly happy. To her credit, every time her financial situation changed, she would come back and get our child support agreement changed to give more to Scarlett. Every time she'd come, she would spend time with Scarlett. She even kept it the same, even though my new wife makes a lot more money than both of us, and we don't need it now. About 3 years ago, she started calling more to talk to Scarlett. She would also come over more, and every spring break, she comes for those 2 weeks. She phones every night unless she's in London, Mumbai, or New York, in which case she just sends a text. On New Year's, she was at some celebrity's party but still took the time to phone. Now, I'm not saying that this makes up for anything, but she has been a presence in Scarlett's life. Well, we just found out that Judy's grandfather is very ill and is going to pass away within a month, maybe early March at best. So, she's going to India for spring break for his funeral and has requested to take Scarlett with her. I'm fine with that. My wife is fine with that. However, Scarlett got really upset at the idea of spending 2 weeks in India. I pointed out her mom will take her to all the nice places. She'll get to see great things, meet that part of her family, but she said that is not fair. So I pointed out that at the very least she can get whatever she wants out of her mom in those 2 weeks. My wife overheard and said I was an a-hole for telling Scarlett that it's alright for her to use her mom for cash since she has barely been in her life. I pointed out I didn't say that, but we argued, and since then I realized what I said kind of did amount to that. Was I the a-hole? Edit. Judy never told me she did not want kids. She allowed me to believe she did. If I knew she didn't, we would never have gotten married. You're the a-hole. If Scarlett doesn't want to go, don't make her go. Advocating for taking advantage of her mother is crappy. Is it wrong to point out that even if she won't be her mom's full attention, she can still get whatever she wants for those 2 weeks? I'm not telling her to drain her mother's savings account. Yes, this is wrong. You're teaching your daughter that time with people is transactional. Like if I go with mom, I get stuff, rather than allowing her to get to know her mom as a parent, not a bank account. Also, you answered your own question about why your daughter doesn't want to go. She won't be her mom's full attention. You've been her stable parent, but now you're trying to force her to be around strangers with no safety net. Her anxiety is valid. Stop forcing her because you want to be petty towards Judy. You're the a-hole. Scarlett got really upset at the idea of spending 2 weeks in India. Your kid doesn't want to go to India with someone she barely knows. Why would you push her on that? Because it's good for her. Not if she's freaked out about it. That's not a mindset where she's going to get something good from the trip. The main thing she's going to get is that you, her dad, don't care about forcing her to do something that feels unsafe just so you can get some petty revenge on your ex. So, your message to your daughter was, it's good to let other people do things with you that make you uncomfortable as long as they pay you. Great parenting. No way that message could go wrong. You're the a-hole. What I meant was, her mom can give her anything on that trip, and probably will give her that, so there's no harm in her going. Next story. Am I the a-hole for asking my husband to not drink on his 30th birthday? So me, 25 female, and my husband, 29 male, are expecting a baby somewhere in the next few weeks. I'm currently 35 weeks pregnant, and my husband's birthday is in 2 weeks. We were discussing the event yesterday, and I absolutely don't mind him celebrating it, and is very excited because it's his 30th. But I told him that since it's pretty close to my due date, I want him to not drink in case he needs to take me to the hospital. Now, I know the chances of that happening exactly then are slim, of course, but it's not impossible. I told him that I don't want to have to be taken by a cab and I want him to take me, as I don't want to be screaming in pain and potentially wetting myself in someone else's car. He said I'm being silly, and that there's no way I would go into labor in that time frame when he will be celebrating, and that he should be able to enjoy a drink with his friends, and that is not fair. I told him I haven't enjoyed a drink in 8 months, and it's really not a big deal. Am I an a-hole for asking him this? Edit. He wants to celebrate the birthday at our place, which is outside the city, so it would take a long time for someone to drive to our house and then all the way back. I understand that probably most births don't happen fast, but both my mother and grandmother had very quick births. I also understand there's plenty of situations where he might not be able to drive me personally, like if he's broken his leg or whatever, but these situations I can't predict. I'm not trying to control him. I very much encourage him to celebrate, but he's a lightweight, 1 to 2 beers, and is already tipsy. And no, I'm not mad because he can drink and I can't, and I'm not just being a mean woman. This is my first pregnancy, and honestly, I'm terrified of giving birth. Maybe it's not that scary. Plenty of women do it every day, I know. But things happen, and you never know what's gonna happen to you. And I need him there, present and sober, and I want to not have to worry if he's all there. Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole. And I say this as a woman with a toddler and a baby. Let him enjoy his birthday. It's going to be way harder to do things once the kid is there. The odds of going from absolutely no signs of labor to ready to go to the hospital in the course of a few hours is very unlikely. Is he planning on getting so absolutely drunk that he can't stand up for 2 days? My sister-in-law gave birth in the ER waiting room because they didn't make it on time to get her checked in. My niece was 2 weeks early too. Is having a drink or 5 really worth the worry it causes to your pregnant wife and a risk of missing something that relevant? Surely it's possible to make a game plan just for that night. Designate a driver who can drive OP to the hospital just in case she happens to go into labor that night of his birthday. OP's husband can agree to limit his intake to a few drinks, so he isn't very drunk. I feel like there's room for compromise here. No a-holes here. I can see both sides honestly. It's a big date. Can you make arrangements for someone else to take you in the unlikely case that you go into labor? Opie explains that she doesn't want to be in that vulnerable position in front of someone else, which I think is totally valid. It's not unreasonable to expect the child's other parent to be able to take her to the hospital. Not the a-hole. I can see how it might be awful for him, but if he can't make small sacrifices now, he's in for a rude awakening once he's a father. I'm sorry, but 1 drink is not the end of the world. The odds that she goes into labor within 2 hours of him having a drink or 2 on his birthday, at 37 weeks pregnant, is so low. I'm a father of 2 kids. I still occasionally have a drink or 2. Being a parent doesn't mean being dead. Last story. Am I the a-hole for missing an actual emergency because I turned off my phone to avoid my wife's unnecessary contact attempts during my tech-free weekend? My best friend 31 male and I 27 male have a tradition of taking a yearly weekend trip together that's phone-free. We've been doing this for a decade now. These weekend trips consist of us staying in a suite and exploring the city, not traversing the wilderness, so it's not like we're completely disconnected. Still, we like to keep one in hand for navigation and emergency purposes, and it would usually be friend's phone that we brought along. Friend and I left for our trip this year 2 Fridays ago to make sure of the long weekend. This was the first time I've gone on one of these trips since my wife and I moved in together, got engaged, or got married. However, we were dating for the last 2 years worth of trips, 2021 and 2022, and she seemed fine during that time. I would just tell her I was going to be busy for the weekend and she'd leave me alone. I understand that there are different expectations once you get married, but I didn't expect for the 180 behavior. My wife all but demanded I take my phone as well, in case she needed to get a hold of me despite her having friend's number. I let her know I had arrived, and immediately after that she was texting me and asking me how things were. Then again, asking me another question when I didn't respond to the first one. I eventually muted our text conversation because I was sick of the phone buzzing. She called me a few hours later and asked why I wasn't responding to her texts. I reiterated that this was supposed to be a no-phone weekend and kept the call short despite her trying to drag out the conversation. She called me once more after this. When I answered and found out it wasn't an emergency, I simply turned off my phone. The calls then started coming in from my friend as well, and it followed suit. We spent the rest of the weekend with our phones off until the drive back on Monday. I called my wife and informed her when we were about 30 minutes away from my place, and she was furious. She said that there ended up being an emergency as her sister got into a car accident that won't affect her long term but still resulted in broken bones, and that I had just ignored her the entire time when she needed me. I told her that I was very sorry to hear about her sister, but it wasn't my fault she had essentially forced my hand into cutting off means of communication. She went to stay with a friend before I arrived home that night and has since came home, but she's still fuming. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I'm politely asking everyone to stop making harmful accusations about my friend and the nature of our relationship when we were younger. It's making me uncomfortable. And not in the I'm having an epiphany way you guys are hoping, but in the you're jumping to incredibly crude conclusions about someone I love and trust, based on a tiny snippet into our life. Not the a-hole. Her sister getting into what sounds like a relatively minor car accident is not an emergency. This is beyond ridiculous. How is it different from you being in another country and having no service or something? People are allowed to still live their lives despite being married. You're not tethered to your spouse. Oh yeah, minor broken bones aren't an emergency. Definitely not the least bit life-threatening or altering or anything. I agree the wife should have respected boundaries, but it's not exactly minor and can be very scary for not only the person, but the people waiting on word from the doctor during/after surgery, which is also not minor. So I can see why she's mad she couldn't contact him. Again, her fault for not respecting boundaries. Not the a-hole. I have the odd feeling that she almost wanted there to be an actual emergency so she could feel justified in bothering, and might have created one if it didn't occur naturally. She desperately doesn't want you away from her. You'll need to have a serious conversation about that. I had a similar thought that she was sabotaging the tech-free weekend. If friend can't relax because he's fielding texts, then Opie can't relax either, and it's a win for her. She sounds awfully insecure and exhausting. I second the insecure comment. It's as if she had to keep in constant touch with Opie because she suspected something. Okay, but she's insecure because in the comments he implies he used to date his friend. Am I the a-hole for continuing to cheat on my wife with a guy who groomed me when I was underage?